All right, let's talk about one of the most famous puzzles in the English language, do versus make. I mean, when do you use one and not the other? If you've ever found yourself pausing, second-guessing which word to use, you're definitely in the right place.
And if you get these two mixed up, trust me, you're not alone. It's a super common hurdle. And you start to think, why? Why does English need to make this so complicated? Which, is a totally fair question, because it turns out English is kind of the weird one here.
I mean, just look at this. In languages like Spanish, French, and German, one single verb does the job for both concepts. So yeah, no wonder it feels a little strange. You're being forced to make a choice that, maybe in your native language, you don't even have to think about. But here's the good news. There is a system to it. There's a logic behind the madness, for sure.
So here's how we're going to crack the code. We'll start with the basic problem, then I'll give you a golden rule that solves about 90% of cases. We'll dive into do and make with tons of examples, and then, we'll even tackle those weird exceptions so you can walk away feeling confident.
Okay, so what's really going on here? At the end of the day, both words are about action, right? You're doing something, but they point to very different kinds of action, and learning to spot that difference is the whole secret.
All right, you ready? This is the big one. This is the core idea that unlocks just about everything. If you can remember these two words, process versus product, you are going to get this right almost every single time.
So what do we actually mean by that? Well, process is just the action itself, the task you're performing, the activity you're in the middle of. A product, on the other hand, is the result. It's the new thing, the outcome, that exists after the action is over.
Let's break that down with a super simple example. Think about cooking. You do the cooking, right? That's the process, the chopping, the stirring, the whole shebang. And what's the result of that process? The meal. The meal is what you make, you see? You do the process to make the product. That's it. That's the core difference right there.
So let's zoom in on do for a second. Just think of do as the verb for your tasks, your duties, and your routines. It's when you're performing an action that doesn't necessarily create a brand new physical object out of thin air.
And you see this pop up everywhere in daily life. With housework, you do the dishes. You do the laundry. You're not creating new dishes, you're just completing a task, right? Same for work or school, you do homework. You do research. It's all about the process. And for self-care, you do exercise. You do your hair. All actions, not creations.
Now let's flip over to make. If do is all about the process, then make is all about the product. This is your creation verb. It's for when you're producing, constructing, or just bringing something new into existence. And you see this all over the place. You make a cake or make coffee, you're creating a product that wasn't there before. You make money or make a profit, you're generating a new result. And what's really cool is this works for abstract things too. When you make a phone call or make a decision, you're producing an outcome that didn't exist a moment ago.
Okay, so it wouldn't be English if there weren't a few exceptions to the rule, right? To really get this down, we have to look at the handful of tricky phrases that seem to break our awesome process versus product rule.
And here's the classic troublemaker, make the bed. I mean, come on, that sounds like a routine task, a chore. So why on earth isn't it do the bed? This one feels like it completely goes against everything we've just learned.
Well, believe it or not, there's a fascinating historical reason for this one. Way back in the day, beds weren't like they are now. You often had a sack you had to fill with fresh straw every single morning. So you were literally constructing your bed from scratch. The phrase, make the bed, is basically a fossil, a leftover from a time when it was a true act of creation. Pretty cool, huh?
And even in more abstract cases, you can see how the rule holds up. Think about it. You do your hair. That's the physical process of styling it. But the goal of that process might be to make a good impression on someone. That impression is the intangible product, the result you're creating. So, process versus product. It still works.
So let's wrap this all up into a simple checklist you can use anytime you're stuck. First, ask yourself, is this just a task or a routine? If yes, it's probably do. Second, am I creating something new here, a new item or result? If that's a yes, lean towards make. And finally, your safety net. Is this just one of those weird, fixed phrases I need to memorize? Run through those 3 questions, and you are going to nail it almost every time.
So there you have it, the logic behind one of English's most confusing pairs, all broken down. Of course, the real test is getting out there and putting it into practice. So think about it. Based on everything you just learned, what tasks will you do next, and what awesome results are you going to make happen today?